Welcome back to another edition of Check Call. Don't forget to subscribe to Check Call, the newsletter on FreightWaves.com if you haven't already. Today we welcome Michael Grace, VP of Customer Risk Management at Highway. Thank you so much for joining us today, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to get in today. We touched last week a little bit on on cluster theft and that very specific kind of trend that's happening right now. But today we're going to get into some other trends that are happening. Before we get too far into that, though, let's get some background on you and how you got started at Highway.
Great, thank you. So before I started at Highway, I was a freight broker at three different freight brokerages over the last 15 years. So I'm a true freight broker at heart. Always have been. I still identify as a freight broker. Um, but the last 8.5 years of my broker career, I was with Nolan Transportation Group as their VP of Risk and Compliance. And after we kind of saw the end of COVID come through, um, that's when all the strategic theft and fictitious pickups really started just skyrocketing. Like we used to have maybe a handful of stolen shipments a year, and that changed. I feel like right after COVID, it changed overnight almost. Like the five we would have in a year could have happened in one single day or 1 week. So that's really what kind of changed my, um, it changes your life because you're the guy that has to deal with all the cargo theft and the upset customers and explaining to the C-suite on why there are so many stolen loads. And it's because we had never experienced anything like it before. Um, it was new to all of us, and it kind of took everybody by surprise. And we're just trying to do what we can to make it stop. And but what we learned is it's very hard to make it stop, and I don't think it's really going to go anywhere. You just have to manage it right to avoid it as best as possible.
1,000%. I never in my life thought that I would yearn for the days of a simple double broker or just like a slight improper MC number. I never in my life thought I would like yearn for those once in a while occasions that happened. Because now it's so much more than that. Like obviously double brokering is still happening, but like those, I don't want to say those are like the easy solutions, but those are the ones that you know how to handle.
Yeah, they're pretty clear cut, right? It's like, all right, you got a collections agency hitting up your shippers, receivers because the carrier that you hired didn't pay the end carrier. And what do you have to deal with? A line haul payment. That's really about it. You're not missing multiple truckloads of electronics or Bitcoin mining machines or another expensive commodity, liquor. Like it's just a completely different world out there than what it was, just a few years ago.
Those are
Completely.
like the you like, it's just like, oh, I own like, never in my life, like, when those happen, you're like, "Oh my god, this is the worst that's gonna happen. Like, this is a terrible thing," and it is. I'm not discounting double brokering, but when the cost of fraud is only, like, 1 to $2,000 versus 40 to 80, then you're like, "Oh, actually, I will take the small problems that I have dealt with before." Because it's just it's got like you said, it's gotten so bad, and I don't know that I can point to any one specific thing that was really kinda that catalyst. I mean, like, obviously, aside from the pandemic, but, like, any one thing within the industry that kinda became that catalyst for all these different new ways of fraud, except just, the evolution of tech and the fact that we kind of caught up in, as much as I love saying we should stop running our supply chains on Excel, we stopped running our supply chains on Excel.
Yeah, it's the digital load boards. They love load boards, as you know. That's where a lot of the fraud is taking place. So what we have to do better as an industry is, know who you're doing business with. Really train your staff on, you know, uh, like their computer hygiene, right? Like what are they clicking on? Why are you clicking on phishing links. Why are you clicking on that DAT phishing link that's been out for, 5 years now? Like, are you that guy in the office that can't understand, like, what's going on? Like, don't click on the phishing links. Don't share your passwords. Don't be that guy. And, we're really, like, seeing that just a ton. Like, don't be that guy, and I think just internal training to a lot of these, brokerages and carriers on, cybersecurity and phishing and spear phishing, over the phone phishing, can all make a big difference within your organization if you do it properly and you roll it out in an effective way where, hey, if you don't follow these steps, like, you don't work here anymore because you're part of the problem.
So when it comes to like those trends that we're seeing, obviously, double brokerings, it's a classic. It's always going to be here. It's always going to be around. It's like that old friend that you're like, I really wish you would stop coming around. And it's like, but I can't. So we're always going to have double brokering. But what other trends have you guys seen really kind of take off and really become I would say a sizable problem?
I mean, lately, so far this year, we've really seen an increase in carriers getting their emails compromised or hijacked, however you want to describe it. Um, Sold MCs and, just spoof phone numbers. So going back to the first piece, the compromised emails, what we just talked about, what's your digital hygiene look like? Like, these guys are typically the ones that are victims of identity theft. They're typically your smaller motor carrier, 10 trucks or less. They're using like a Gmail, a Yahoo account, and their main focus is take the highest paying load, make my truck payment, and pay the mortgage. Right? They are the backbone of America, and they are good people. Most truck drivers are all good people, just trying to deliver goods, trying to do their job, and they're victims, right? Like, they see a load posted somewhere. It's a really well paying load, maybe a little too good to be true. So they call on that load. They call in on the scammer who is taking somebody's credentials, impersonating a broker. They call that person, they get on the load, and then that same person, all right, you just need to fill out my carrier agreement. I'm going to send you a quick link. They'll send the link. They'll click on they'll put in their email and password, and then before you know it, that same guy's going to call that um, uh, carrier back and say, yeah, we're about to send this over. We can give you a fuel advance. No worries, quick pay, no problem. I just need you to give me that verification code real quick that we sent you. Can you read that off to me? And then, this guy is probably, hopefully he's pulled over in a safe spot, not operating his truck, but he looks at the code, he gives it to the scammer, and then he doesn't realize he just gave his Yahoo or Gmail code to the scammer, and now that guy is about to, you know, ruin his ruin his day and probably the next, few weeks because the carrier's gonna have to clean up their reputation. They're gonna have to resecure their emails, and they're gonna have to explain to all their broker and shipper customers that I'm not the bad guy. Somebody was impersonating me. And in today's environment, that's really hard to explain to a lot of brokers and shippers that are dealing with this nonstop. They don't want to, if they see anything like negative about you, they're gonna like second guess and probably not work with you unless you can really prove without a doubt that you have resecured your email and are safe to do business with because they want to make sure you're still you, right? Um, the sold MCs, that's another huge one that we're seeing. A lot of guys, expatriates living in Oklahoma. They've been driving for 20 years, want to retire. They go and, sell their MC on Facebook, on Telegram, you know, whatever it may
It's like
be.
for those sold MCs, like, I was even I just was like browsing Reddit one day and someone's like, "Oh, how much would you pay for this MC?" And then I was like, "Wait a second. Is this like are they being just this open about it?"
Oh
And
yeah.
you can go down that rabbit hole and you can see threads of like, "Oh, for this MC you could get about this or don't settle for less than this, especially if you have like a clean driving history." And I'm like, "You guys are literally committing fraud out in the open. Stop."
Yeah, yeah, and they think they're doing business with a legitimate person, but they're doing business with the scammer, with the fake ID, with the fake notary, with the fake sale agreement. It's all fake. And and how your stock price goes up if you're a carrier trying to sell, like you mentioned, you want a clean safety record. You want as many broker carrier agreements executed and approved so you don't have to sign up with carriers or brokers, I mean. And they, if you have an Amazon account or Walmart account, that's an extra, 5 or 10 grand. Um, but sometimes they're selling these things for like $3,000. Other times it's $25,000. It's but it's like really, you're really gonna to sell it for $3,000? That's all all you wanted was $3,000.
Like at
Uh,
least have a little bit more like faith in yourself that your value's a
I know,
little
like, why are
higher.
you lowballing yourself? Start a little higher. So, like,
Exactly.
some of these prices on these agreements are just offensive to look at. Um, but it's bad. It's really bad because the bad guys want no changes to be detected. They understand we're watching them, they're watching us. How are the brokers operating differently based on the last 1,000 loads that got stolen, right? They know that, all right, if I change my FMCSA information, that's going to be a red flag. So now you're seeing less FMCSA changes and more MC purchases because they want that smooth transition with no bumps, right? So you really have to be careful on who you're doing business with, work with your shippers, ensure the truck that you hire is the one that they're loading, and always like CYA yourself, right? Like like I am Mr. CYA, so when I book a load, I am telling the shipper, you know, Michael Grace is picking up the load in his red Volvo. It's a 2019. When the last, 6 digits in my VIN are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's who's picking up. Don't load anybody else. That alone would eliminate probably half of the stolen loads that we see on a daily basis because a lot of the shippers aren't really, if you have that pickup number, like you're going to get loaded. They're not going to ask questions. They need dock space. They're dock workers. They don't care. They want it off their dock. And at the end of the day, like if you're a broker, you probably signed an agreement with that shipper making you liable for any loss or damage, even if it's, the negligence of the shipper. A lot of times brokers are indemnifying shippers for their own negligence, which is ridiculous. So that's a completely another subject. Review your shipper contracts, make sure you aren't signing your life away with those agreements. Contracts are there for the divorce, not the honeymoon. So just CYA yourself, because if you can prove that you told the shipper everybody, all the details of the person picking up, and they were negligent, like you have a better leg to stand on, other than rather than not having anything. So just be careful.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's more than just like because in the past, it was always just kind of the freight broker problem of like, oh, you got by a double broker or, a carrier wasn't who you thought it was. But now it's like more so become something that like it needs to be a united front between the brokers and shippers and say, okay, well, like we're managing your transportation, but you're still filling loads and like filling up tractors and tractors. No, you're filling up trailers, not filling up the cab. But you're filling up those trailers and So it's kind of almost become like a united approach, but also I can see from the other side that if me as a 3PL or a freight broker, like, yes, I'm managing the transportation for this account, but also is it my place to come in and say, hey, here are processes you need to have in your warehouse? Because I mean, I worked for some companies that we were almost scared to ask the shipper for a picture of their freight because they didn't want to bother the shipper, let alone coming in and saying, hey, you're having fraudulent pickups and you need to kind of retrain your warehouse staff. So I think that's where it really falls back to that, hopefully the proactive relationship that you have with your shippers. Because if you are, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you're someone that's scared to tell your shippers, like, hey, you're having fraudulent pickups, you might need to reevaluate some things. And here are some tips and tricks that you can do. If you're scared to have those conversations to act in the best interest of your shipper, they will not be a customer for you for very long.
No, because something's gonna get stolen, and
Mhm.
then they're not gonna work with you, and then it's gone.
Even if it
And
is their fault, they're still gonna say, "Well, like, you're supposed to come in, you're supposed to advise me, you're supposed to be helpful, and all we've done is lost more and more product since you've come around." And there's another 3PL on knocking on my door saying, "I can fix this. I can do this better for you." And especially in this market, like, I think that you really need to kind of be that's why that relationship is so important with your shippers, to have that open communication.
yeah, and, to that point, like, the shipper is the first person you need to be on the horn with once you get wind of something may have been stolen. They're gonna be your only hope to figure out who was the end carrier that actually was loaded and rolling, right? I wanna intercept that load, I wanna contact that driver before it gets to the first cross dock, never to be seen again. I mean, it is a ticking time bomb. If you do not have that information within the first, 24 hours that it picks up, you can count that load like it's gone. Like, you're not
Into
finding
the wind.
it. It is gone.
So, when it comes to specific, like, regions of the US, or like goods, or any kind of like freight profile, do you see any one coming up more than often? Like, I know food and beverage is a pretty popular target, especially compared to like electronics, which it's a little harder. They've gotten, like, manufacturers gotten a little smarter, so it's a little harder to pawn off some of those, but food and beverage is still really easy. Are you seeing the higher freight trend or fraud trends in certain regions or in certain kind of industry verticals?
I mean, the last couple of years, you really saw a lot of like solar panels, tires, electronics, TVs. Now lately we're seeing it, but food and beverage is always at the top, right? Like, you can eat it, you drink it, and it's gone, right? It's easy to sell, and it's hard to trace. And shippers know, or the bad guys know, like, if that seal is broken, like, you're gonna have to destroy the entire load anyways, right? So they know that, and they, it's just easy for them to get rid of food. Like, it's easy. There's no VIN numbers on food, right? But lately we've seen, an increase in copper, a lot of copper thefts lately. Trying to get this stuff out of the country before the tariffs hit. Um, some copper, a lot of liquor. Electronics are always being targeted nonstop. TV, computers, um, and the list goes on. But, like, I'd say if I had to pick a few, that would be my top 3 right now, liquor, copper, and, electronics.
I will say that the tires from a few years ago, that's a in my opinion, obviously I am not a criminal. I've decided that I would arguably be a terrible criminal. But tires feels like a very weird choice, you know? Like, what do you do with an entire truck load of tires?
Oh, it's easy to sell.
I guess,
And
but it's just like, that's a lot of tires, you
oh, yeah,
know?
but it's tires are expensive, and
Mhm.
nobody is really, like, gonna get down to
Question the
their knees
validity
and,
of your
like, check
tire.
check, like, the identification on your tire. Like, all tires look the same to the average person, right? It's very
That's
hard
fair.
to identify where they came from. I know when I buy tires, it's pretty expensive. So nobody likes, paying full price for things these days. So they want a good deal. They're going to buy some stolen tires.
I will say in the world of food and beverage, one of the weirdest things that I've heard recently, well, I guess it was last year, so it's not that recent, was someone stole an entire truckload of crab, like fresh crab. And I'm like, "Where do you go to sell that?" Like, do you just pull up to this seafood restaurant and
Miami.
be like, "Do you
Yes.
want a load of crab? Don't
It's,
ask questions?"
it's going to Miami for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it gets down. I mean, it's easy to take it and then freeze it and export it or sell it. Especially down there, there's a lot of
To me,
crap
it's
eaters
just
out of Miami.
sometimes I hear of like, "Oh, someone took stole a load of this, a load of this." I'm just like, what do you do with it? Because don't get me wrong, like, I like crab, but I can't I don't know where I could get rid of, like, a box or 2, you know? Not, like, pallets worth of crab.
They're well connected. I mean, most if the stolen freight is not going overseas, it's going back into our supply chain.
Yeah.
So that supplier at Cisco has crab at $30 a pound. I know a guy that'll sell it to me for $10 a pound, and
Just don't ask questions.
don't ask questions. It's quality crab.
I got
Crab,
some
crab.
good crab, don't worry. Don't ask any questions about it, just take it. That is terrifying. But we are coming close to our end of time today, so I have 2 more questions for you. One is Highway has a freight fraud index report coming out or came out yesterday. Is there anything that, like, really stood out to you as, like, "Hey, maybe the industry, like, this is a huge takeaway that they should have?"
Um, I would just say don't be that guy that clicks on the phishing link, and don't share your passwords, and don't share verification codes, and like just stop. Just stop, people. It's so irritating when I see preventable stuff happen to good people. It's like, come on, just CYA yourself. Slow down. I know it's a very fast paced industry that we're all in. We're all trying to look out in margin. That's all that matters. I get it. I understand. But at the same time, slow down. I want to steal this from Scott Cornell. Have that spidey sense about you. If something feels weird, maybe something just doesn't add up right, or it's too good to be true, or it's the lowest truck. Oh, he's charging you $500 less than market rate. Like, come on, just like common sense goes a long way. And that'd be my one takeaway is just like slow down and make sure you know I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and you're not cutting corners trying to book as many loads as possible.
That seems like a very common sense approach, but I love it, because honestly, it covers pretty much everything. If you're just taking an extra 5 seconds to just double check something, and like we've always said, if it's too good to be true, it is. It is too good to be true.
That's it.
And also, the one thing that I will continue to shout from the rooftops is I know when you're trying to onboard a carrier and you want to move it really quick because you've got a load that's got to go, maybe don't yell at your carrier verification team, who goes through and, like, make sure the MC is valid, the insurance is valid, and, like, kind of do all the things to catch potentially fraudulent carriers. Maybe don't yell at them that, "No, don't worry, he's good for it. He told me he's good for it." Maybe don't use that as an excuse for them to just automatically approve someone.
He's my only option.
Yeah,
That's the number one excuse I always heard from carrier sales. It's my only option.
"It's my only option. He's
What?
fine. He's
No, it's
fine."
not your only option. And no is a complete sentence.
Exactly.
For all my carrier compliance people, no is a complete sentence. You should use it more often.
So moving on to the hottest question of the day, and that is, Michael, if you could build a house out of any food, what would it be?
Oh man. Um, I would say cheese.
Ooh, I like that.
There's lots, there's lots of different cheese options out there. You know,
Okay.
you
Would
can
you
get
have like
lots of
a
cheese. You
would
can
you
get
have like a different cheese for each room, like a cheddar room, a Gouda room, a mozzarella?
Well, just think about like the structure of the house, right?
That's
Like
fair.
the mozzarella sticks, they're your studs.
Yeah.
The American cheese is your sheetrock and siding.
Yep.
The Swiss cheese is going to be your carpet.
Mhm.
Um,
Maybe a window, depending on how big the hole in
yeah,
the Swiss
there
cheese
can be
is.
yeah. I mean, easy to cut and form, melt.
Exactly. I
Um,
like this. We haven't had a
Reliable.
cheese house before.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with cheese,
I
but
like that.
for colder environments, not recommended. In the South.
Not ideal for Arizona, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I would not recommend.
Unless you want a house of queso, which I'm not entirely sure how that would work, but I feel like you could make it happen.
Yeah, I mean that's hot, hot tub full of queso. Who doesn't like nice warm queso?
Ugh. I like queso, but I don't know that I want a hot tub of it.
Well, as part of the house, so like your hot tub's gonna be full of queso now.
That's
So
true. That's
you
true.
only have you only have one food to work with.
That's true. You really gotta stretch it
Yep,
to make it work.
exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If anyone has questions about maybe the blueprints of a cheese house, or if they are just kind of tired of getting in the fraud game, where can they find you outside the show?
Yeah, feel free to email me michael.grace@highway.com, LinkedIn, whatever. Um, always good to hear from people that we don't work with and people that we do work with. So, any questions, concerns on my cheese house or anything fraud related, please reach out. Be glad to talk to you.
I personally would like everyone to send you the most ludicrous story that they've heard of something getting stolen, because then that just because who doesn't love a good fraud story? Who
That
doesn't love
people
a
already do that. I already have that. I already have all of those
yes,
stories. So, like,
yes.
talk to me about something else.
Go back to the cheese houses.
Yeah, I'll take the cheese.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks again for having me. Appreciate it.